So I've actually been seeing a lot of conversation around this, and this is actually related to the video that Bria made about her baby shower and how people have canceled on her like an hour before the shower was supposed to start. But it's actually making me think about the social contract of friendships. And one of the biggest principles I think about the social contract is the assumption of hospitality. So I have always felt like, and my parents really ingrained this in me, is like the work of being a good guest is just as important, if not more important, than actually being a good host, right? I think hosting requires like a desire to gather, but to be a good guest requires a spirit of service. And I have embodied that, I think, quite fully. To the extent that like we try to always be like the first to RSVP for things when people send things over, or make sure that, you know, we're communicating about like, hey, I might have something that I'm going to before this, but I will make sure that I'm there and like communicate a timeline. Even if I'm running a little bit behind, sometimes it's like tedious, right? Or you would assume that you are bothering people by doing that, but they know that you are considering them, right? And I feel like that's like really, really key. So that's piece number one. Piece number two, though, is I feel like if you are not able to make it to something that you had previously committed to, what you have to do is ensure that your presence is still felt, right? Like the thoughtfulness of your presence has to remain felt. And I'll give you guys a real life example. Like 3-4 weeks ago, so closer to 5 weeks ago, because it was shortly after Thanksgiving, we were invited to a kind of a housewarming, but also like a Friendsgiving sort of vibe, by a girl who I follow on Instagram. And she follows me on Instagram, and her boo had recently moved to Atlanta. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, congrats. Let me know when you're settled. We can go out for coffee or something like that. And she ended up messaging me before we could get around to going out to coffee. And she was like, hey, do you want to come? You know, it's going to be like a bunch of chill people from Howard or whatever. You know, you pull up, bring your fiance. It'll be a good time. I was like, cool, great. Super excited about that. The entire communication goes down via Instagram. And this is important for the story because on the morning of, I woke up and my voice sounded like 2 times deeper than this, and I was like, oh no. And I was pretty sure that I was sick. And for the rest of the day, eyes watering, nose running, I'm devastated. I'm so sad because I had started to brine a turkey, like a little turkey, like a petite turkey, so that I could bring it to the Friendsgiving. Because if I'm gonna show up, bitch, I'm showing up with the protein. I'm showing up with a substantial protein, all right? Or dessert, but desserts were already covered in the spreadsheet. So because I don't have her number, I'm like, okay. I waited a little bit to like see how I was feeling, but even then it's the holidays. You don't want to get other people sick. You know, you have to be like mindful of the fact that other people are getting ready to go see their like older relatives. They've got children, things like that. So I'm like, okay,